Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. Can somebody please confirm? Because there was an issue with
Yes,
the screen not
yes,
being
yes.
shared.
Yes,
Okay,
Parikshit. We can see you, screen.
amazing.
Yeah,
Okay, I am audible. Everything is fine right now.
sure. Yes, yes, all
Okay,
good.
okay.
So, yeah, I'm
Let's
dropping.
let's. Yeah, sure, sure. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
No worries. Let's start. So, just quickly in the chat, let me know how many of you were there in the last session. Is that okay? Rather than that, just let me know if somebody is new. Is anybody new here? So that I have an idea. I hope not. I'm new. Okay. Who Pratik is new. All right. So Pratik, do you have any context about what happened in the last session, or like you're completely blank here? Yeah, I remember a few names. Dheeraj was here. Sandeep was here. Pranjali is new. Okay, completely blank. Fine, no worries. So let's just take a rough recap of what we were doing here. So what we are here for is n8n, and n8n, as we all know, is an we don't know, but we have an idea is an automation platform, or rather let's just say is an automation tool, because platform is just one of the parts, and that we're going to discuss very thoroughly today. Now, why the name at n8n? Let's just all go through a very quick recap. Where did the word n8n come from? N8n came from node.js and automation. Then why is it written n8n? Because there was a guy who was in VFX team, and he wanted to automate his video editing workflows, and he was using .bat files for Windows and .apple scripts for iOS and Mac and whatnot. And then he got really tired of helping everybody around to automate their stuff, and that's why he came up with an idea that let's just make a node package out of it. He was very well versed with Node.js. That's why he just went ahead and made it in Node.js. Had he been a Python guy, he would have made it in Python, but that doesn't really matter, because what all matters it was what node automation lets us do. So he took the word node.js and automation, and since it was a CLI first package, there were frequent commands like let's say n8n some dispatch, or n8n join, or something like that, xyz. So since you had to name the package n number of times in the command line, really node automation did not make sense, because you were wasting time writing node automation. That's why he had to come up with a shortcut. And then why specifically in it? It's an industry lingo wherein when you have too many things, or like a really big chunk of word, and you want to write it very frequently, what they do is they take the first word and the last word, and they count the number of letters in between, and then they just put the number in between. So for example, Kubernetes has been compressed down to K8s. And similarly, what he did was he just counted all the letters in between N and N, and then he put an 8 in between, and that's how you get N8n. So there is no really like some witty reason behind why N8n, and it's really confusing at first, like what does N8n mean? But this is what it means, and it's an automation platform. Okay, okay. I hope that is easier. And then there are like, as n8n grew in size and the funding came in, initially it was like just for their internal team, but the CEO saw the potential in the product. He pitched it, he bought it from the user, and then they pitched to Meta, they pitched to Amazon, they pitched to different companies, and they got the funding. And as soon as they made 1 million ARR, the company went public. And now there are a few competitors as well, like there is Zapier, there is Make, and there are n number of things. But why n8n? The biggest reason we are focusing on n8n is because the first is n8n is open source. That is really good thing for us. Secondly, okay, why the fact that it's open source gives us two things. There no private data issues. So since it's open source, if you know nobody is calling back home. What does calling back home mean? Calling back home means when you have a particular application on your machine, and it you install it, you use it, but since the code is proprietary, it pings back home. What does it ping back home for? It could be data, it could be logs, it could be your behavioral choices, etc. Now what do companies do with this? Companies basically use this for advertisement. They serve you ads, and not just ads, they serve you personalized ads. Just ignore my spellings because I'm just blabbering things out here. So personalized ads, and that's what they use it for. But since n8n is open source, there's no private data issues, nobody is calling back home. This is not happening. Nobody is sending your data as logs or anywhere. Everything you own everything basically. So that is one of the big thing. Second thing which helped n8n being open source was community support. So now, as we know, n8n was developed by a single VFX engineer, right? There's only, and it is meant to automate things. And when you want to automate things, automate means running on themselves. But since they have to run, they need data, right? And from data you make workflows. So workflows are what runs, but for them to run, they need data, right? And this data can be of, and like it can be of any number of types. This could be APIs, this could be logs, this could be errors, this could be triggers, this could be etc etc. It could be any damn thing, right? And from any n number of apps that we use, it could come from WhatsApp, your mail, your sheets, your drive, etc etc etc. And this is just not even scratching the surface. There are like billions and billions of applications that we use every single day that can serve as data, and then they can have workflows, and what comes out of a workflow is a result. The beauty of it is that, and this is what we're going to see today. When you have data, you pipe it into a workflow, you get a result, and the beauty is that you can pipe that back again into a workflow. Or that is one thing, or you can use it as a data for another workflow, right? So that is how it becomes a cyclic. That is how it becomes a cyclic thing. Okay, cyclic thing simply means that it can recur. All right, now, so wherever we, since n8n was developed by a single VFX engineer, it was only in his limits to create as many plugins as he can. So he could be going around adding WhatsApp support for WhatsApp, mails, sheets, but he alone cannot do all of it, right? That's why making it open source did what? It gave community the access to it. And when it's anything has access, like when any community has access to a particular open source project, the best thing that happens is there's speedy growth, like let's say fast growth. So within 6 months of n8n going open source, there were 1000 plus plugins ready to use. And as soon as the like the big players like Google and Amazon and Facebook and Meta and all of these saw that there were already thousands in plugging, and 3 million users, that too active, 3 million active users, they saw potential, and then they came up with official plugins, right? Official plugins, and this is what gave the boost. Now, since because there are official plugins, which means there's support for Google, there's support for your internal stack, the Google workspace that you use every day, the messaging stack from Meta, WhatsApp, Telegram, and all the number of chatting or messaging applications we use, all of that data was there. That is what made creating personalized personalized workflows really easy, right? So you did not have to write custom code to bring in all of the private data into this. There were already officially supported plugins where you could just log in. So we have all seen login with Google, login with GitHub, login with email supports, right? And out of that, Google, GitHub, and every major company supported this. That's why n8n grew compared to Zapier or Make. Like they have similar stuff, but that came later. And the best thing is that, the worst thing is that it's paid. And the best thing about on n8n is it's completely free, unless, like, okay, there are two things. n8n Cloud is paid, but the thing which we pay for is the cloud part of it, and not okay. Send to back. Huh. So we pay for the cloud part of it. We don't pay for n8n. n8n is open source. You could just type in n8n and you could go to their GitHub page. And if you look here, the whole repository is open. Every single thing is open. You could look at the source code, you could modify, you could support, you could fork, you could contribute as an open source contributor. You can do that and just look at the number of contributors. There are 632 active contributors right there. Okay, and the last commit was made 3 hours ago, which is what tells you how active this particular project is. Okay, Then what do we pay for? So let's first get to know what n8n is and how do we use it, and then we can know why we pay for this. All right. Okay. So, and let's just look at the UI. Okay. To get to n8n, you first come to this particular website, which is very obvious, and then you go to sign in. Here you have this, like, you have to create an account, sign in with your Google, blah blah blah. But now, as you can see, there's no workspace here, because as people who attended this course last time, they know, or like the session, the first part of the session, we created our own accounts. There were free tiers, but since it has been 3 weeks since then, we have lost the access to our workspace. Then what do we do? If you go to their okay, so this part, this whatever you're seeing, no workspace here, this is the n8n cloud thing. This is n8n cloud. When you go to the website and click sign in, it takes you to n8n cloud. But how do you get n8n self-hosted? There are two ways to do that. If you go to their GitHub repository and look at this part, it's really dead simple. All you have to do is npx. Npx is like node package manager's extended version. What you do is npx n8n, that is all you do. Everything else is taken care for you, like all the dependency management, the key setting, and everything, it's done for you. Or if you really wanted to contain and expose, as I did for you guys, you get this they get this docker command, run it, and everything just flows. So if you look here, I have self-hosted my n8n instance. Everything inside this. Okay, one change that I did was I self-hosted my n8n Postgres database, because I assumed that 160 users, I was going to send invites to 160 users, and maybe like 15 or 20 of you use it concurrently. So n8n itself comes with a SQLite database internally, which I did not think would have been sufficient if 15 or 16 of you would have hit the my personal server at the same time. So that's why I hosted a different database, n8n Postgres, and it's just a simple Postgres 16 image that I've like hosted internally. I gave the port number and I attached it to the n8n's application, and we have it ready. All I did was just ran these two commands and nothing else, and had my Docker engine running. That's it. That's really it. A deep dive, like maybe Mohit will go into a deeper dive into what this does and why it does that and xyz, but this is all I did. And then if you were wondering how did I get to like this part, if I go here, okay, let's just open it from Docker. So if I go here, I go n8n self-hosted, this is my n8n instance. Okay, and I can click on this link to open the instance. All right, this is my local instance, so it's running on localhost 5688, but I did not want it to be running on local instance. I wanted to expose it to the internet, right? That is where a tool called Tailscale. Like this is a bit off topic, but really useful if you guys are into networking and everything. Tailscale. What Tailscale does, I'll just tell you in very simple words. It lets you create your personal VPN. Like yes, like NordVPN and Shark VPN and all of these have, like, these are companies. They let you use their virtual private network, but using Tailscale, you can create your own VPN. So that's what I did. I created my personal VPN and then I tunneled. So what do you mean by tunneling? You basically, where did the okay. Huh. What does it mean by tunneling? So there, let's say there's a local host colon port, right? There's a local host, a port, let's say 8000 running on my machine. What I do is I map it to a domain and a port on that domain. This is running locally, and this is the internet. So I did not have a domain, but Tailscale gracefully provided me with one, which is like a really random domain, and they just mapped the port to that, and now bada bing bada boom, you have your own hosted on internet. Everything in here, like the tunnel punching and everything, like all of that, firewall punching and all of that stuff, SSL certificates and everything is taken care by Tailscale. Like, this was just for people who are curious, how did I do that? And that's why if you look at the link that I have provided you, uh, where did it go? This one. So if you look here, msi.talpacoho.ts.net. So this is the domain that Tailscale provided with me. Talpacoho, because Tailscale, so it's like name of a scaled animal and a fish. So that's how they create their domain names. .ts means Tailscale. .net is their private domain, and yes, there we have it, right? Okay, so that is how I self-hosted it, and I can really, if you want to see how many people we have here, we have users. Okay, these many people have logged in, and these many have not. Amazing, which is fine for me because like this is what 10. 11. Amazing. My machine can easily take it. Okay, I really did send invites to 113 users just to be prepared. Okay, so now that we have an understanding of how I did it and what I did, I always forget. Okay, now let's see what n8n really is. We did see it last time. We did cover the basics, but just to gloss over, let's start again. So when you come in, you see this, like when you are going to log in and do everything, you're going to see this page, which is going to be the overview page. And if I just zoom in, you won't have these. You won't have these are my personal projects I've created to like help you guys with this, but you won't have this. Yours will be completely blank, and it will take you to a create workflow page directly. So this is what you're going to see. Not even this is what you're going to see at first steps and everything. What I personally recommend is first getting hold of the UI. Okay, so just to get the hold of the UI, this is your sidebar. All right, everything like from personalized chats and everything. We don't have to use chats and everything right now, but like this sidebar provides you access to all the settings and anything you're going to need. We don't have much use for that. Secondly, this is your main canvas. Okay, this is your main canvas. This button right here, it's really useful. We'll see what we use for. This canvas has 3 tabs. Okay, the first tab is an editor tab. This is what really helps you build the workflows. This is where you build the workflows. Once you have built the workflows, you're going to need to see how many times have you run the workflow, what happened to a particular workflow, because the workflow never goes straight. It's never like you drop nodes and it just works. Never. You drop node, you test, this fails, you fix this fails, you fix this, you go ahead, you drop node, and it's an iterative process. And to see what happened in a particular run, what data was outputted, what data came and everything, you need a section. This is the section that tells you about everything. It's execution. If you get an execution, none has been executed yet, that's why it shows nothing. But when you execute your first workflow, it will come in here. Okay, then evaluations is the next step, which is beyond our scope today, because evaluation is basically when you have a very mature workflow and you want to compare it against few different data sets or few different types of inputs and how the workflow behaves. That is when you do evaluation. But this is like a production grade use case, so we're not going to dwell in that. But these are the 2 tabs which are going to be most important for us: editor and execution. But I find it really cumbersome to just keep switching between editor and execution. I want to see my nodes here and I want to see what happened right then and there. So let's say if a particular uh, node fails, I want to see what input was given to it and what output came out of it. So that's why you have this particular thing up here. If you see, this is called logs down here, right? This is logs. If you click on it, a window pops from underneath. If any, like I'm assuming most of you are aware with VS Code. VS Code has a similar layout where here you on the canvas you see your code, and down here you see the terminal logs. So this is almost like that. Almost, I won't say exactly similar, but almost like that. Okay, so now the very first question, like we are going to study n8n. n8n means node automation. We are going to perform automations, we are going to create workflows, and we are going to need data for the workflows. How do you actually create a workflow, or like what does a workflow look like? Now that's a really interesting question, and also adds to the fact why you should study. If you're trying to get into AI, LLMs and everything, the eventually you'll get to something called agents, right? Eventually. But there's a difference between these two. So what we are doing is automation, right? And this is agents. What is the difference? Like we all have seen around the industry, like you all know the news, you go through your reels, everybody is saying agents is the new thing, automation is dead, agents are like they can do anything. For example, Claude Code can do anything for you. Gemini CLI can do anything for you. Or let's say Kimike 2.5 is really good at doing whatever you want. It also has its own CLI tools. So all these agents, they can do things for you. They can run autonomously. Okay, they can run autonomously. They can perform tasks for you while you sleep, and all of those things, right? They can do. Yeah, I'm very much sure that they can do all of this. But the one thing that agents are like the downside of agents is they are not predictable. That is the biggest downside. That is, if you ask me, that is their power as well, because automations, they are strict, and straight. So there is no runtime decision making. There is no runtime decision making. There is no runtime decision making. Every decision and what do you call it? Every decision and flow has been thought of. So you could literally flow through your workflow, charting out everything that is possible inside an automation. This is not possible with agent because they're non-predictable. What a particular LLM will generate at runtime is not predictable. That's why the decisions may vary, even though like it might hallucinate, it might get some bad data, it might get prompt injected, it might get compromised. There are n number of ways it can go bad, and that is the reason agents are not agents are not completely replacing automation. We still need automation for its predictability. That's why agent automation is predictable, because you have set it up, you have flowed through every single decision, you have flowed through every single flow, every single path the automation can take. Obviously it can take n or like hundreds of different paths, but you know them all before even firing the workflow. That is not the case with agents. All right. And second of all, this particular tool has been built by an VFX engineer. VFX engineer is a visual fidelity engineer, which means he is a visual first learner. And we all are. Like, we all are visual first learners. So eventually, if you're going to learn about AIs and stuff and you're going to get into agents, you first need to know fundamentals, right? You need to know your fundamentals. And what better way to learn the fundamentals other than visualizing them, right? No other, like, okay, what are the tools you use to make agents? So there are tools like LangGraph, right? There is Copilot Kit. There is Agent SDK from Google. There is what do you call it, Crew AI. There are like etc. There's one from Microsoft as well. There are n number of these, but these are all code first and these are SDKs. So if you're going to create an agent in LangGraph, Copilot, Agent SDK, blah blah blah, it is going to look like LangGraph agent samples, LangGraph example. If you okay, let's just chatbot, like simple chatbot, right? Agent simulation, evaluation, blah blah blah. Come on. Amazing. Okay, let's go to LangGraph docs. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, this is what your simple agent would look like. Not exactly this, but this is what it looks like, which is code first. You can hardly imagine, unless you are really well versed with visual learning through code, you can hardly imagine what does this particular flow looks like, where it flows. And we all humans are visual first learners, so we need something which is visual first, and n8n is the best way to start learning about AIs, because they have been AI heavy since the beginning. Like, whenever the AI boom started, they have been adopting AI really really fast compared to Zapier, Make, or any other tool out there. All right. So those are our two important points to learn n8n, because automation is not going to completely replace agents because they are predictable. And secondly, n8n is a visual first tool because it was created by an VFX engineer, and we all are visual first learners. So that's why we should learn n8n. Okay, amazing. So what does n8n comprise of? We looked at that it needs data, it needs workflows, and we are going to get result. But what does this workflow and data look like? Data is nothing but simple APIs. All right, that is really simple. APIs. What are workflows? Workflow, and if there is flow, obviously there has to be something, like there has to be a base unit to everything. Just like in universe there are atoms and everything, there has to be a base unit. So what is the base unit, or the most fundamental unit of an workflow, or rather of n8n? The fundamental or base unit is a node. Okay. And if you ask me what is a node, in context of n8n, it's everything. It's basically everything is a node. And then very naturally, if a node is if node is the most fundamental unit and everything is a node, what do you call a workflow? Workflow is nothing but a collection of nodes. It's really really that simple. So when you have node plus node plus node and they are connected in some random manner, So let's say it could be connected to this, and this could be connected to these two. That's it. That this is your workflow, nothing else. All right. So let's get into the application now. Okay. So this is our base UI. This is what we're going to see. And now we want to like, okay, let me just see the chat. Is anybody seeing anything or something went wrong? Somebody has a doubt. Out of context question, what is the difference? Oh, sorry, extremely sorry. One of the what is difference between LangGraph, LangChain, and Copilot Studio? I keep hearing these terms, but not sure. Amazing question, but if I start answering this, like this session will be kept aside, and we'll have to go on a different track. Don't worry about it. As soon as we are done with this n8n automation and one major workflow today, I'm going to open a QA, and you can ask any questions, and we'll start with this ones. All right. Perfect. Amazing. Okay. So now, here is our basic screen. How do you add your first node? Okay, you it's very visually simple, that it says add your first step. We click on the plus button, nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? I don't know. Okay, yeah, something happens. Okay, this menu opens. Now this is a completely new menu for us, but just take a look. Let's take a really quick look. As we saw, workflows are nothing but collection of nodes, and we are going to need a way to add nodes to this particular canvas. And just for you, the geeks out there, this particular way, like this particular component, what is being rendered right here, this is a workflow component. If you search for workflow component Vercel, so you can create your own like Vercel workflows. Yeah, this one. Like there's a whole code for that particular thing if you really want to see how it works and everything, right? Just a small tip. Okay, so this is the canvas of that particular workflow, and I need a way to add nodes to it because I want to create workflows. How do I add nodes? I click here, and there are n number of nodes, but as you can see, these are not nodes, these are the category of nodes, right? And the first thing it asks me to add is what triggers this workflows. Amazing question, because whoever designed n8n knows that, or rather assumes that, whenever you are creating a, where did it go, where you are going creating a workflow, you need a way, because as we saw, automations are predictable, and if automations are predictable, we need control to start an automation and to kill, or like let's say stop an automation. We are going to need these two conditions, that when does an automation start and when does it stop. These are the two things you need. And if you just have like a little coding background, both of these are going to be conditions. These are going to be conditions, both of them. When does it start is going to be a condition, when does it stop is going to be a condition. So when does it start, in n8n's terms, it's called a trigger, triggering a workflow. And then obviously there are n number of triggers. We did look at it last time, let's just do it again. Okay, so trigger, what triggers this workflow, and it has provided you with a number of workflows. Just to show you like the difference, let me select this random one, trigger manually, and if I go to this button again, okay, open node panel, we just saw what it showed us. When we click the plus button, it shows us what triggers this workflow. But now, and that time there was nothing present in the canvas. Now there is something present in the canvas, and I'm again going to click the plus button. Just observe what it does, what happens next, right? So the UI is aware of what's happening and where are you. Now it does not show me the triggers because it knows that a trigger already exists, and maybe you can add multiple triggers, but it knows one is sufficient. That's why it's now showing me the type of nodes, right? So it could be an AI node. As I said, n8n has been AI heavy since the AI boom. It could be an action in the app. So that basically means do something in app or service like Google Sheet, Telegram. This is the exact type of data that we were talking about, right? So this is our AI in the data input. Then data transformation. Obviously, if you are bringing in data, it is not guaranteed that every time you bring in data, it is going to be in the form you like, right? It is not going to be in the format that you want. It is not going to be in the form. It is not going to be in the type. Not it is not going to be going to be into the format, right? So we need some way to transform, manipulate, and convert the data. So these are the type of node that are going to help us do that. Then how does it flow through? The easiest one is going to be our linear flow, right? Easiest one is going to be our linear flow, where nothing goes anywhere different than what is it being told for. It just goes straight, nothing different, just like starts here, ends there, no issues. Then there are different types of workflows which can which can start like this, branch out, go do this based on some xyz condition, branch out, do that, branch out, do this, branch out, do that. That is the second type. This was linear, this is branched. And then there are type of workflows which start like this, do something, go back, loop around, again do something, loop around, loop twice, thrice based on this condition, and then go ahead and finish the condition, right? So there are three type of flows that can happen, like, and you can club these two, like you can club these two. So obviously, like if you look at it, this particular part of the workflow, this one, it's linear, and then it takes different characteristics of looping. This one is completely linear, this one is linear and then takes the branching approach, and individual branches are linear. And again, it could get crazy, it could like be like there is a loop in one of the branches and loop in these branches, and this is how n8n automations or workflows get complicated. And that is when we are going to need something called this, where did it go, n8n ecosystem. We're going to need n8n as code, but we'll discuss about it later. All right. So back to the UI. So now it's giving me different types of nodes. AI nodes, we all know what AI nodes, something related to AI. We'll look into it deeply. Second is action in an app. So basically bringing external data into this particular workflow or automation. It could be from Google, it could be from Telegram, WhatsApp, Notion, or any service that you use. It could be even be logs from your hosted personal server. This could be your Google form. This could be their personal form. Anything, right? Data manipulation, as we talked about, changing data formats and bringing in what we want. Third, flow, the types of flows: branch, merge, loop, etc. Core. Core is basically when you cannot do what you want with these things. So basically these are the pre-made, uh, just let me have this, these are the pre-made nodes. What do we mean by pre-made? The creator of the n8n and the community went through all the possible use cases, what they could find, and they figured out there are n number of nodes which are repeated almost every single times, right? So that's why they made us pre-made nodes. That, for example, trigger is going to be required by every single one of them. That's why it's a pre-made node. AI, they know, like, how different can you get? You're going to need an LLM, you're going to need some tools, you're going to need some memory. That's why they made some pre-made AI nodes. Then they knew you're going to obviously need data from some pre-made services, Google Sheets and every etc etc etc. So that's why they made pre-made nodes. Then they knew there is only a certain number of data transformation a particular user would want, and 99% of the use cases it was really simple automations. So they knew there are only n number of data transformation one might need, so they made nodes for that. They again knew, because these are fundamental things, ki, how many times, how many types can you branch a particular workflow in? There are only certain types, so that's why they created a branch node. Then they created a merge node, a loop node. So these are fundamentals which come pre-baked into this particular application. But then if you are a type of user whose workflow is not satisfied by any of these, you want a empty node, you want a node which is practically empty, excuse my handwriting here, but it's practically empty, and you want to fill it, like you want to be the custom designer of this is a custom node. That is you when you go into core, right? And in fact, even in that, they observed a pattern that when does a user wants a custom node? When they want to run a custom piece of code, right? Or they want to call an API which we have not included in the community API. So it could be your private APIs, right? You have hosted a particular server, and the particular service that you're using to host it does not is not present in this particular action in an app provider, right? That is when you need to have an API. Other than that, like this, then there are different branches of this. It could be a simple API call, it could be a webhook, etc etc etc. That is when you go into core. The two major reasons are either you want to run custom piece of code or you want to call a custom API. That is the only thing when you that will provoke you to use the core nodes. Okay, coming to the this one was not present in version 1. So if you type what is the latest version of n8n, 2.15. So 2 was very recently released, was published to NFM 3 days ago. So if we were taking this session, let's say last to last week, we would have missed out on this particular node. So it's kind of in our favor that we delayed this session. Okay, it was released on April 10th, and like this particular feature, the one, which one? No, Sorry. Yeah, this one. Human in review. Now this human in review has been introduced because, like, the biggest reason this one has been introduced is just one, because this one, agents are not predictable. Like, this is the sole reason human in loop is required. This one thing, that agents are not predictable, gave birth to what? Hill. It's called Hill, but full form human in loop. What does this mean? The reasoning is performed by the agent or the LLM that you have hooked it up to, but the final decision whether to execute or not, that is taken by a human, and that is why you require a human in loop. So the whole flow will be executed by the agent. It will gather the data, it will format the data, it will explore the different kind of flows required, and everything it will do that. But in after the final thing, do we fire this workflow or finally we get the result or not, that has to be approved by a human. And this was only required because LLMs are not predictable. Automation will very rarely require a human loop workflow, very rarely. It will only be the on the times where you can like when whoever is designing the workflow cannot run through the work. Let me just cannot run through the flow at runtime. If you are not able to run through the flow and every single decision that has to be made at runtime, then and then only you will require this hill loop in particular automation. Otherwise, you very rarely require hill in automation. Is that understood? Is that okay? Is this like, is this speed okay? Please let me know in the chat so that we can go ahead. Okay, Sandeep says yes. Everybody else? There are 18 people right here, right? Okay, amazing. All right, so let's continue. So that is why you're only going to require hill when agents are involved, or LLM is involved, or and but I mean, when an automation requires a hill, it is a clear indication that the workflow is not mature. Like, that is an indication. If you are not able to run through every single decision and every single flow before you fire an automation, the workflow is not mature, or you just have not thought about it enough. That's the only reason you might require hill in automation. Otherwise, if you have a perfectly matured automation, you have thought through everything, you're rarely going to require human in loop. Okay, all right. Again, so now we have a trigger in our canvas. I click the plus button, it gave me all of this first, but it also knows the user might want to trigger it differently. This one says when clicking execute the workflow. So this is a manual trigger. Okay, how do I know that this is a manual trigger? Or let's say I add some random ones on app event. Let's say some random one, creator. Okay, this will the add particular trigger. Okay, let's say I add another trigger on a schedule and blah blah blah. Okay, I added this one. Now how do I know which one is which, like what type of node this is, what is the name of this node, and etc etc. So to do that, you click on the node. As soon as you click on the node, this particular thing opens up, or rather, uh, okay, this one is a trigger, we know for sure because there's an icon. But this one here, if you go on this icon of the particular open window, this drop down shows you what type of trigger this is. I could rename this, I could call it Monday morning. Let's say you are creating n number of workflows and now you start naming your workflows, which is a really good practice. But then the type of workflow is now hidden. It used to say trigger, like scheduled trigger, but now it says Monday morning. But right now I want to know what type of node this is, so I just hover over this and I can see scheduled trigger. That is how I know which type of node this is. Okay, so it's a really useful tip. I personally faced this issue because when I had n number of nodes, and these are really easy nodes. Like, when you get into complicated nodes, you really need to know what type of node that is. If you click on this, you hover over it, it says execute workflow, which is basically manual trigger. Okay, all right, let's delete these. Now coming back to, so now we know we need two conditions: when to start, when to end. First, like, when to start is called a trigger, and when to stop is basically a termination condition. Basically, it does not have a particular name in this. You could have a termination condition, or it just stops. There is no termination condition. The workflow completed successfully, that's it. Nothing happens beyond that, and it waits for the, and it's a loop. That's why I said the workflow is a cyclic thing. It's a recur. What does it mean? When something stops or is completed successfully, it just goes back to listening to the trigger. It goes back to listening mode. So it listens for that trigger, whether that trigger is being applied by some particular API, or are you clicking it, or the condition, this particular condition is being met or not. That loop, that if loop is again started infinitely, as long as your workflow is ready and published, right? So this is a loop. This keeps looping between start and end, start and end, and whatever is in between is basically our workflow. All right, so let's start with a particular workflow. Now we know ki when there is nothing in the canvas, it is going to suggest me to get a trigger, and there are n number of triggers. It's really self-explanatory if you look at it. Trigger manually, which means you click it on an app event. So something happens in a particular app. Let's say you get a mail, you get a WhatsApp message, you get a email, like you add something to your drive, you forward some message to someone, somebody fills your form, something like that happens. So, and in a particular app, right? So that is when you use an on app event on a schedule. So you don't want anything to trigger it but time. So let's say you want news to be sent to your WhatsApp, or let's say to your mail, every Monday morning 9 a.m. That is when you use a schedule, and this happens every single day. And rather, like, you can obviously customize it to happen every hour, every day, every 2 day, on custom intervals, on webhooks. So basically, uh, now that we know that we can bring in data from some from particular applications, we also know that these applications need a way to communicate with our application. Like this n8n, this whole n8n is an instance. This is an instance running on this particular thing, right? And just like any, I am assuming, based on the poll that you guys have filled, I am assuming that you know what an API and what JSON is. Okay, so the first thing that the first out of those requirements is now going to prove its value. So this is a n8n running instance, right? This is my instance running. And like every other application, like Gmail provides their APIs, WhatsApp provides their APIs, Claude provides their APIs, every single thing on internet provides their APIs. What do APIs stand for? Application programming interfaces, or like interface, just okay, application programming interface. What does this mean? So when we started developing applications for humans, let's say this is an application. Okay, we have created it and it does some work for a human, because ultimately the users are human. We are users, right? Users use this application majorly through GUI. Like everything has a UI, we click buttons, we click drop downs, and etc, etc, etc. But let's say there are multiple applications. Okay, and this application, okay, let me change the color so that everybody gets a better. Okay, so user has a request, or like, because like this application is providing service to the user. There is a reason, service. There is a reason this user is using this application, right? This could be anything. This could be WhatsApp, Gmail, Telegram, YouTube, Netflix, anything, right? It has a GUI. User is interacting with the application. This is a service which is being provided to the user, and user has a request. Show me the video, send my message, upload this to my drive, show me my mails, etc, 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 etc. If this application can fulfill this request himself, it will give it a, wait, the fuck? It will give a response if it can complete it himself. Let's say the application has all the resources required to provide a response. The application will provide a response straight up. There has to be uh, no external involvement. So wait. The response goes from here to the user, and the request will flow from user to the application. It is going to be as simple as that. But let's say this application requires the help of this user. Let me change the color now. Okay, this application, the red application requires the help of yellow application to fulfill the request. Now what do we do? The user can interact with the application using GUI, but this application cannot talk to this application using GUI, because this is not a user, this is application interface, right? That's why you need somebody in between here, so that the application can talk to the application. And that is where your APIs come in. Okay, APIs. And what APIs are? Application programming interfaces. So they are interfaces between two applications to talk to each other, so that they can together fulfill the request by performed by the user and provide a response. Okay, that is what APIs are. And that is the very reason why every single application out there, majority of them provide APIs, because they want applications to use their own applications to provide the answers to user request, because not every application is going to be able to reach all the users in the world, right? So that's why we have APIs. Now, if every application has an API, obviously whatever we are studying, this n8n, this is an application, this is an automation tool, this is an automation application, this also has APIs. And where are those APIs? So this internally does that, it uses some fast API kind of thing. But if you really want to configure them, this is where you go to settings, you go to n8n APIs. Okay, this is also relatively new. Initially they were not open source. Now for an application to use their application, because like this is the basic security stuff key, let's say, where did it go? Two applications are talking to each other, this is a nice application, this is a bad application, we don't want them to talk to each other. That's why what do? We put in auth in between, so that this application can identify itself, this application can identify itself, and a random third application does not talk to this and poses itself as, okay, here is the data you need. That should not happen. That is why we have basic authentication, and for those authentication we use keys, right? And that is how your concept of API key comes into play. So what is the API key? When an application wants to talk to other application using API, it provides the key. This is my key, which has been authorized by this application. Okay, if you provide me this key, I will give you data. If you don't provide me this key, I will not give you data. That is as simple as it gets. Okay, so when you want to talk to n8n APIs, you will have to create an API key. Simple. How you do you create an API key? You just click API key, you give it some random name, you set expiration, custom, and not even custom, you say 30 days and save, and there you have. This is an API key. So any application out there who has this key can talk to this my particularly self-hosted n8n instance using this key, and my n8n instance will provide the data to it. That is as simple as it gets, right? I will delete this key. Never expose your API keys regardless of the application. Okay, now coming back to the uh where were we? So webhooks. Now we know that we are building automations, we are building applications, and we are building workflows, and we are going to need data, and data is going to come from different types of apps. As we saw, applications need to talk to applications. Let's assume this is our n8n application, right? And this is our Gmail application. So if Gmail wants to talk to n8n, right, there has to be an way to do that, right? And that way is here APIs, right? So the Gmail is going to talk to this particular n8n application using APIs, and when this happens for user requests, that is fine. But when it is taken as a trigger, where did it go? When it is taken as a trigger, so when an API listens to a change and is being used as a trigger, that is when we call it a webhook. What do we call it? Webhook. So basically, when you want this workflow to run, when a particular API, n8n API has been hit, or your particular n8n API has been hit, that is when you use webhooks. So webhooks are majorly going to be used when another application is going to trigger this workflow. All right, this trigger can be triggered by either the user or a different application, right? Come on. What? Ah, So this trigger can be triggered by either a user or an application. When the user triggers this, it is simply called a trigger. When an application triggers this, it is called a webhook trigger. Okay. And if I say listen for webhook, this is the exact URL. So this is the API. This is the API which the application or Gmail or any random thing, or wherever I want to call n8n from and trigger my workflow, this is the URL I'll have to trigger. Okay. And let's say I do terminal. Oh, come on, terminal. Hmm. Let's say I do curl this. If you look at it, curl is just a command line tool to trigger APIs, and this is my API link. So what is the status? 200. So different numbers are provided to the APIs, and that it just gets into networking heavy. I'm not going to get there, but as you can see, everything just returned successfully. 200 means perfectly executed. Okay, status, description, content, message, workflow was started. Did I click something on the canvas? No. Did I set a time to run it? No, nothing happened. It just simply gave the workflow a start based on what? Based on my curl request from the terminal. Okay, so this particular curl can be performed programmatically. I did this programmatically, right? This could be performed by any other application programmatically to trigger my workflow. So that is our webhook workflow. Okay, simple as that. And you get all the info here. We're going to look at this UI later as we after we are done with this. Okay, done. So we looked at these 1 2 3 on a schedule. Webhook done. On form submission, this is the most interesting one. So let's say you want somebody to fill a form before you, and this is like a heavily engineered. This was not initially there. After certain use cases for marketing, bank management, they figured out that most of them require a form, like preliminary information for the user to fill. So that's why they so created a form. You could personally create it, or you could like use their UI here. Form title test, and form description hello. Hello there. You can add more, like you can add a label or attributes and blah blah blah. We're not going to go there because you don't need that. Okay, form is response when form is submitted, yes, obviously. And okay, we're ready with that. Okay, and let's say execute step. So now you see a form. Okay, these are the exact things that we filled, right? Test hello. You can add a form title where you fill in the information and then you press submit. As soon as we press submit, things appear here. Okay, whatever you're going to add here, key, give me your name, your, and we are going to use this, don't worry about it. So basically you get the idea, right? You create a form, some user fills it, you get the data, and then you pipe it through whatever you want to do next. Okay, that is the form trigger. All right, so this is the most powerful one when executed by another workflow. As we saw, we talked about this here, right? uh, this one, as we saw, when a workflow completes, it could either, the result could either go to a data or it could go a different workflow. So that's how it is cyclic, right? So the results go into a workflow. So basically this result triggers, this result can act as a trigger. Now we can update this part of it. Where so as of now we knew that my application, my own workflow can be triggered by a user, it could be triggered by an application, and now thirdly it could be triggered by another workflow, which is amazing because you can create a cluster of workflows which trigger each other based on some outputs. Again, it is going to be a flow. Another workflow gets a different color. Why? Because we're visual learners. Application, users. Okay, these are the three ways as of now that we know of which can trigger a workflow. Amazing. So when executed by another on a chat message, so this is very heavily AI specific. When you send a particular message to a chatbot or you use messages, exactly that's what written here for AI nodes, right? This is specifically for AI nodes, and this was not present in the older versions. This is very new. When running evaluations, again for industry use case, and we don't want to go there other ways. Again, these are heavily industry focused use case. MCP, it's in really early production thing. Error trigger, this you use when you have particular server, it throws an error, or a running application which you want to automatically handle the errors for and require data from different applications. That's when you use error triggers. Email triggers, like you can create a custom one, but again, n8n team went through n number of 10 thousands and thousands of workflows out there. They saw like the majority of use case was regarding email, so that's why they created a dedicated email trigger node. Then you n8n handles events for, so this is basically two n8n instances talking to each other, right? Then SSC trigger, like this is server sent triggers, front and back end type of stuff. We don't want to get there. Okay, so the most of the triggers part is done. Now does anybody have any questions regarding this, or not understood something like that? Any issues? Let me know. Or else we can. Understood till now. Okay, amazing. Okay, so let's move ahead. Now that we have a trigger, okay, what is the next thing that we would want to do naturally? If it comes to your mind and if you're following the diagram, we now have a trigger. Now we need a way to bring data into the application, right? We have the trigger, we have our first condition, this is met, this is amazingly done. Okay. Ah, this is done, right? Trigger is done. We know that either a user can trigger us, either an application or another workflow can trigger us. We are okay with that. Okay, now we want to work with data. We want to bring in data. We want to manipulate data. We want to change data as we want and whatnot. So obviously, if this is going to provide me with a trigger, like let's say I add a manual trigger. Now when I go here, or rather, one quick tip: if you press right click here, this is going to give you a drop down menu which you can use to add a node, or you can simply press n, and when you press n, this whole thing pops up, right? You press n, this pops up. That's how you add nodes. So there are three ways. Either you can click this plus button here, you click right click add node, or you press n. And since we are here, let's say you are building workflows and flows, and after a while you imagine like, okay, there are um, several sections to the workflow. In first section you are doing something, in second section, and it's really difficult to remember all of that, right? So I want to add some notes, just similar to the code we write, we add some comments. I want to add some comment here or note about this particular thing so that I don't forget about it. Right click, and there's something called add a sticky note. Press it, and you're going to get a sticky note. This does nothing. This is not an this is technically a node, but it's a node which does nothing. It's an element. Let's call it an element in the canvas. This is a non-functional element, this is a functional element. This does something. And that, how do we differentiate? If you hover over it, there are different types of buttons. These are programmable buttons, or rather let's say functional component buttons. So you can trigger it, you can deactivate it, you can delete it, you can ask this is AI bullshit, not required. So these three buttons are specific to functional components and functional elements on the canvas, and this is a non-functional component. So there is no execute or turn off button. There's only appearance change or delete button, right? So you can add a sticky note, you double click on it, you change whatever you want, hi there, etc, etc, you press enter. That's how it goes. Or let's say you this can this supports markdown. So if you write markdown, so markdown is basically a way of telling computer कि इसको bold करो, इसको italic करो, इसको ऐसा करो, इसका करो, and that's what it does, right? And the best part is it can hover over the Z index is behind these nodes. So what I can do is I can resize this, right? And let's say uh, I want to say triggers, this is where we start. Okay, amazing. So I have triggers, and now I can have the whole trigger, or like the whole section of the workflow in this particular one. Then what I do, I create a new sticky note, I give it a different color. All right, I size it up here, and then just like that you keep creating things and keep creating different zones for your workflow, so that you don't lose the track of what we are going to do in this and what we're going to do in this. So it could be data extraction, sorting, sending to a contact, etc, etc, etc. Heavily depends on your workflow. So we have those two visual things covered. All right, now let me add a simple trigger up here. We add a trigger manually. There's a trigger. Now when I press N or add a node, it gives me different types of nodes. So rather than going through all of them, clicking them, I created a simple overview for you guys. I'll leave without saving. Okay, where is it? 5 node types. These are the basic types, and then we are going to get into the crazy one. This is what I was talking about. You create the sticky notes, you expand them for different colors, you give them titles, and then you can basically tidy up your space. Okay, so triggers, as we discussed, we are now very well versed with it. Okay, we can click the workflow, we can have a form, we can schedule it, we can execute it from another workflow, you can have a web view, or you can chat with it. This is heavy AI use case, but just for the mention of it, the and the for the people who are into monitoring, DevOps, backend, everything, error trigger. So what you do here is you basically provide the error message that you want your particular n8n workflow to monitor from your server or from your running application, right? This is how you set it up. And then once you have set it up, this will automatically trigger when a particular error has been initiated, right? first item code. So basically it could be code 404, 401, any type of error code, and you want to have like observability, and your particular deployment does not have although there are dedicated applications for observability, but obviously you can use it and use it to map that data into n number of nodes. Okay, so this is just a honorable mention here, but these are the basic ones. Next, action nodes, take action in the particular apps. Now what do action nodes mean? Action nodes are not here for bringing the data in. These are basically for doing something. So basically this result, as we talked about, this can either be used as data, it can again be created into a workflow, or now we know of a next thing. This is the most common use case: perform some action. Obviously you want to perform some action, right? The data comes in externally and the data has to go out of the workflow. If I create a new diagram here, so this is your workflow, right? What you want to do, you want to bring the data in, right? And you want to push the data out, right? So this could come from a mail, but what do we do with that data? Workflow runs, does something, but again now I want to respond to the mail, so respond to the mail. That is an action, right? And that action is in the mail, and what is the action? To respond with what? The generated data. So this is an action, right? So every workflow can either be used as a the result can be used back into the workflow to trigger something else or to process something else. It can be used as a data for a particular node, or it can perform some action. This is the ultimate thing, like this is the most wanted thing, or rather this is exactly what the workflows are created for. These are preliminary, not non-preliminary use cases. This is the preliminary use case. So these nodes are action nodes. They take actions on your behalf. So Airtable, I don't know who is aware. Let's go with the common ones. GitHub. So it could either merge a PR request for you. It could push the code, commit the code, or do some else other action on this GitHub particular profile that you have connected here. Calendar. It could delete your events. It could create a new event. It could structure your events, change the date, change the time, postpone, add participants, etc., etc. Right? Then again, Gmail, like most common and the most heavily used node. It could read your emails, write your emails, segregate your emails, mark your emails, spam, delete, etc., 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 whatever you want to do. Sheets, you can update the columns in the sheet, right? You can write a particular column, you can update a particular column, reorder, delete, etc., etc., etc. And Notion and YouTube and etc. You get the gist, right? Third, HTTP. This is a universal adapter. Just like a few minutes ago we talked about APIs, right? APIs are what? Talking between two applications. How? Okay, now it's a really logical thing. If 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 and if okay, if this application is going to talk to this application using APIs, how is this application going to talk to this application? It's a very common, like very common common knowledge or common understanding that APIs, right? This application talks to this application using APIs. This will also talk to this using APIs. So if we are going to have a trigger, or let's say our workflow is going to get triggered using an API, the workflow will commit or perform an action on some other application using APIs, right? And in this case, when this application had to talk to like the red application had to talk to yellow application, who had to expose the APIs? Yellow application had to expose the APIs, and this particular application was calling those APIs. Now when this application wants to use that API, this one will have to expose and this one will be calling. Okay, so whoever wants to be called should expose their APIs, and whoever wants to use those APIs should call those APIs. So in this particular form, where we were going to bring in the data, the the webhook thing, we need n8n to expose its API. That's why when you click on it, you get this URL. This URL belongs to my particular n8n instance because it is running on this domain, right? This is my API and I am exposing it. That is why other applications are able to call it. But now when I want this n8n instance to do something in these applications, these different applications, I am going to require APIs from these particular applications. So Gmail from Google will have to expose their APIs, which they very conveniently have. And again, the second thing which you require is the key. For this application to use this, they require a key which is going to go with this exposed API, and for this application to use the red application, it's going to require the API key, which will go with this application's exposed APIs. We need API keys. So if somebody wants to call n8n APIs, like a different application wants to call n8n, I will have to give him this API key. And when my n8n instance has to call some other application, I will have to provide n8n with a Gmail credential. Basically, credential is nothing but an API. But because APIs and like the API keys are a single digit and can be mocked and can be blah 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 security issues, we have now advanced into something called OAuth 2.0, 2.0 OAuth. So that is the or the Google's implementation. OAuth 2 APIs. They are again the type of API, but the authentication is on like on one notch above. And if you click on that, create new credentials, you not only get a single API key, like you don't have to fill in one single API key, you'll have to do two. So you need a client ID and you need a client secret. How do you get these? I can go into this. That is the exact reason why I asked you into the like the poll that I created initially in the meeting, which was, are you well versed with Google Cloud Console or not? If you are, it is really really simple. You just go to this dashboard, you go to Google Cloud. This is the dashboard you're going to see when you log in. Okay, what you do is you select your project. I have n number of projects, but I created a different one, n8n self-hosted. Then you go to this particular what do you call this, the hamburger menu. You come down to APIs and services, and then you go to enable API services. So for this particular Google project, these many APIs are open. Okay, and I have personally made sure that whatever I want to use is open. So I have initiated Gmail APIs, I've initiated Google Cloud Storage APIs, Google Drive APIs, Google Sheet APIs. And these are the important ones for me, because I want to bring in data from Gmail, and I also want Gmail to be updated using n8n. I want to bring in data from Google Drive, and I also want to write data from Google Drive. I want to bring in Google Sheets, I want to write Google Sheets. So that's why I have initiated all these APIs. How do you initiate APIs? You go to enable API services, you get a different menu up here. So these are all the different APIs provided by Google. Now, obviously, Google being the tremendously huge company, it has n number of APIs, and you can search for anything. You search for map. Let's say you want to bring map data. These are all the map APIs available, and these are of like gazillions and gazillions of gigabytes of data you can work with. Okay, some of them are free, some of them are paid. As long as it's your personal stuff like Google, like Gmail, Sheets, Drives, you don't have to like pay for it. But when you want to use, let's say, Maps API, which is not free, like this is nothing your personal, right? Map data is public, so when you want to use it, you'll have to pay for it, and the billing cycle and everything will go on accordingly. So we are not here for Google Console. It was just a simple walkthrough. How do you get those keys and APIs? Okay, that's how you get it. You put it up here, and as soon as you do that, this particular node, okay, come on. Okay, I'll show you if this is can be done. Let me see if I have. Okay, let's go here, create new credentials, client ID. I think I have it handy. Okay, also just as a warning, never expose these, because if somebody has access to these, as you can imagine or you can visualize, they will be able to talk to a different application based on your profile, and which is not what you want to happen, right? That is the reason when you enter client secret, it does not show you the client secret. That's the exactly reason. Okay, and if I say sign in with Google, it's going to show me which Google account do I want to sign in with. This is the one I want to use. It says Google hasn't verified this app because this particular project that I created up here that I showed you, console. No, wait, not this one. The did I kick it or what? Right.
You might need to go to GCP, right?
Yeah, I opened GCP right here. Did I close it?
I think you have closed that.
No,
It's,
this one. I don't know
yeah,
why the
hammer
icon
open
was
menu.
not updated. Yeah. So, what was I talking about? So I have created those credentials from here, and I have plugged them in here. So now this particular project, the n8n self-hosted project, this is not verified by Google because I have not filled in all the requirements. You have these requirements up here. If I go to API and services, okay, credentials, right? So this is the web client. These are all the things that I have filled in, and only two two URIs or two links are able to call this. This is the exact thing that I showed you. This is my self-running instance of Tailscale that has provided me with this domain, and that's why I'm able to call this. No other website will be able to call this particular app, project without adding them here. Okay, but again, verification center. I am pending for verification because I created this product right like just today, right? Your branding is not being shown to the you can view blah blah blah, because Google takes time. They want to verify if I am an authentic user, if I am an authentic business, if I'm an authentic application, right? So they take it on themselves to maintain the security. Anyways, so by coming back to this login page, where did it go? What was it? What? Huh. Okay, so Google hasn't verified, but there is a way to bypass it because I am going to use it, right? So I have to be able to bypass it. If you click on advanced menu, continue only if you understand the risk and are a trusted and trust the developer. Do I trust myself? I don't know, but I'm going to click this anyways. Okay, click to go unsafe. As soon as you do that, you are going to be presented with this menu. It's going to tell you about all the risks. This app has not been verified by the Google, if the Google blah blah blah, and this is what the like you have to continue, and there. Okay, done. So this time it did not ask me for specific permissions, but if I were activating the, okay, let's do that. Rather than talking about it, let's just do that. Workflow automation. Okay, so account connected, right? Everything works out. Now this particular thing can talk to my Gmail account, and Gmail was there by default. But let's say I want to enable where did it go? Sheets. Huh. Let's try Sheets. Again, the same thing, new credentials. I go here, I take my ID, I put my ID up here, I take my client secret. Okay, now I do sign in. The same thing pops up that I have not been verified. Okay, not found. Okay, array, it went ahead with a
Client
different account.
ID, client ID.
Just a minute. It's taking a different account. This is not the account that OAuth client was
Oh,
created for.
okay, got it.
So that's why. Anyways, but can I? No thanks. Somehow it should not default to that one. Anyway, just a second. Let's try it one more time, or else you get the idea, right? New credentials. Faku. Perfect. Okay. So now when I go to this one, again the same warning, Google has not verified this developer. I go to unsafe. Look at what it asks me for. Okay, it already has three services. So I've already given it access to these three services. Okay, this is the one. These are the only things which will be applied because we are asking for access to Google Sheets. It asks you where you manage metadata on your drive files, because Sheets are directly links to your link to your drive. It uses storage on your drive. That's why you require metadata from drive. You need to be able to see the drive files, and you need to be able to see and delete all your Google Sheets. See, edit and delete. Do you want to give permission to this to this node to do that? Yes, I do want to give it. So that's why I click continue, and that is how you create the connection. Okay, and once you're done with that, the everything will be fine, and there is not going to be a exclamation mark logo on that node, and that node will be able to successfully talk to that particular service that you're trying to monitor or like perform actions into. Okay, so these are the types of things you can do, and there are gazillions and gazillions of applications like this where you can take actions or bring data in from. But let's say you do not have the application listed here. So if I go into this nodes tab and I take action, click on the action in the app tab, and I search through all of this. Let's say I have an application called Yugen Space, my own personal application, Yugen Space. Yugen Space is not here, but I want to include Yugen Space into that particular workflow. What do I do? It gives me the answer right here. We didn't make that yet. Don't worry, you can probably do it with a HTTP request node. And that is why this is a universal adapter. What this helps you do is, regardless of if the node is pre-built or not, you just create this solo node, you specify the method. Now all these methods, that is the reason why I asked you, do you guys know about APIs or not? These are all the type of operations you can perform on an API. This is the URI you need to use, and the type of authentication. Exactly the three things that we discussed, right? And then there are extra things like send query parameters, headers, body, etc., etc., etc. But you can completely customize it. If you paid attention, the tool I used was curl, and since this is a visual first ID, they have done nothing but import curl. They have literally wrapped the curl into a visual node, nothing different, right? Paste the command here. If I paste that particular command here, it is going to call that thing. Simple, right? That's how your simple HTTP node works. So these are the pre-built nodes, and if one of them does not, any of them does not suffice your particular use case, you create your own one. And the best part is, if you create one for a global service which is going to be used by many people, you can publish it. That is how these were published. These were published by the authorized creators, like from Google created calendar, Gmail, and Sheets. GitHub created this one, YouTube created this one, Notion created this one, and they published, and they take guarantee that these nodes will work with our services because they have configured it according to their schema. Now again, now okay, just a simple overlook that what does schema mean. When these applications talk to each other, this one has a lingo. So let's say this one has a lingo and this one has a lingo. So for this to communicate with this, it has to talk in their lingo. For this to communicate with this, they has to talk to it in their lingo. And that is the lingo inside, in technical terms, is called schema. Okay, it's nothing but schema. All right, so logic nodes again. Let's say we have that data, we have the data what we want. Now if the data is like, these are basic programming constructs. If you really look at them, do I need to go through each one of them? Like, chat, give me a what do you call, a simple heads up, or no, do I go through each one of them? Because they are just simple programming constructs, they are nothing really complicated. But if really somebody need that, we can go through that. Not needed. Okay, perfect. Okay. Because it's really simple, it's very self-explanatory. If a particular type of data is of that type you want, you place the condition, it goes true, false, split out. You have five instances of particular data, it splits it out into five different one. Merge, you have inputs from two different types of places, it merges it. Compression is not there anymore. Wait, you want it to wait. Loop, simple loop. Code, you write custom code. Edit fields, you basically change the type of data. Filter, you don't want a certain type of data, that's it, nothing else. Okay, and then comes the agent node. This I kept it deliberately here, but we are not going to cover it here. This will be okay. Now let me just add the, not note, but this is the announcement. So we are going to start an L1 course. Okay, and that is going to include AI agents. Rather, let's start with basics of AI, LLMs, and applications. Okay, I will, again, obviously I will go into much more detail when we push out the brochures for this particular course, but this is going to start next week. Admissions are going to start next week. Exact date of start will be pushed on the group, but that is where we'll start with n8n only. We're going to perform, because as we discussed, n8n is the best place to learn about things, because it is visual first with the pragmatic control over the code that you want, which we saw, right? You have these pre-built things, or you can build your own. Again, same, you have this pre-built logic operators, or you can build your own custom code operator. So exactly for that very reason, because n8n is visual first but also provides you the control, we are going to use n8n to understand the basics of AI, LLMs, and the applications of AI. And this is one of the applications of AI. An agent is an application of LLM. Okay, we discussed it last time for the people who were there: memory, tool, and a chat model. LLM with access to a memory and tool, and the fourth thing, like extra points to whoever can remember what was the fourth thing that makes an agent an agent. Big announcement, I will not take the fees from somebody who can right now tell me uh, what is the fourth thing that makes an AI agent truly AI agent, other than LLM, memory, and tool. Now memory is there, Sandeep. We discussed this last time. MCP, no, MCPs are nothing but glorified tools. So tools which can be run by the LLM right there on the bare machine. What? Human in loop? No, not human in loop. Human in loop is a outcome of the fact that LLMs are not predictable. That's why you need humans in there, and it's nothing but a tool call. And MCPs are nothing but glorified APIs. APIs with LLM friendly descriptions are MCPs. Nothing really different. Not memory, not memory, tools, LLM. And there's a fourth very important thing which makes an LLM, which makes an agent a truly agent. Can anybody remember? Okay, let's keep this challenge open till the end of the session. If somebody can remember, I'll give them free access to the whole L1 course. No problems at all. Okay, so okay, so these are the basic types of node. Now, just to like overhaul and have a general look with it, and I'm going to share this with you guys as well, just so that you have every single node out there and you don't have to go and see each one of them. I just did nothing. This is really very basic. I went into the plus menu and I literally dragged and dropped every single one of them up here, just so that I can have a look, and I segregated them into different types of categories. Okay, so these are general data. If you observe, this is again one of the features. Key, if you have a workflow and it has a trigger, and that is the trigger is not working, or there are multiple trigger, it stops you from testing the nodes after that. Just so that doesn't happen, I have deactivated these particular workflows. Okay, sorry, my hello Mohit, audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
I'm sorry, there's a power cut at my end. Just give
Power
me one
cut?
minute. Yep, just give me
Power
one
cut.
minute.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So team, as Parishit rejoins, just to call out regarding L1 that he's announcing, that anyway, we'll have a detailed session, what is going to cover, what is not going to cover, and timings and all, right? I don't need to call out how critical is agentic AI nowadays. We have almost more than 1.5 hours in this session right now. But if you just think bit of in terms of the applications of automation, for example, let's say we would like to upskill ourselves, or we would like to look for the opportunities outside, right? As Parikshit has shown the OAuth, how you can connect with Gmail, Google Sheet, and so on. There will be LinkedIn, there will be Naukri, there will be Monster. So all these websites have their own set of authentication where you would have jobs or requirement uh, for your expertise skills, right? It's if you go manually apply every day or alternate day every week, you will kill your lot of time uh, in just applying for those jobs, right? Plus, we know, right, not a single CV will work for you. So based on the requirement, you either might need to tweak your CV, or you need to create a different CV itself, right? So this can be a simple workflow that I will scrape all the jobs for specific expertise, for specific skills. Then I will identify keywords from it based on the node. So there are a lot of built-in nodes in automation, right? That Parikshit is showing right now. Then I can basically create a CV tailored to that description, and I can apply as well. Like I can literally, basically, then this is where agent or LLM can help you out to parse this text, right? That's what LLM is, or any foundation model is good at parsing the text, right? So this is just one example. You can literally automate whatever you want. For example, you would like to be, I would say, up to date with AI news. What are the AI news are coming, right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether you are following Andrej Karapathy. Uh, So if you're not following, go to your Twitter and follow that guy. So whatever the better is happening in the AI world, he's a person to follow, right? And even we can get more people whom to follow, which news to follow from Parikshit. Uh,
Okay.
Grow,
Am I
Elmore.
audible?
Yes, you are. So
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. Can you? Sorry.
yeah. I was just saying about so okay, Parikshit Joshi. His name is Parikshit Joshi. So based on that, you can take your call. We already having free sessions. You know the way he's teaching, and the most importantly, the differentiator that what Void Infinity offer is basically those who have first-hand experience on those technologies only they will come and teach, right? So even if Mohit knows Git and GitHub and he starts teaching AI, no, it's not gonna work, right? It will basically damage the brand reputation. So whoever is working on day in, day out, yeah, follow this guy on Twitter. Basically, let's have this homework, right? You connect your account after this class, Twitter account, and any tweet coming from Anish Karapathy, yeah, send it to maybe your Gmail. Yeah.
Oh, we are going to take that right
Oh,
now.
great.
That was the exact
Great.
next thing I was going to take. And after that, we're going
Perfect.
to take the this automated job application for different uh,
Right.
like use
Oh,
cases that you might have.
okay. Yeah.
We're going
So,
to cover it right
yeah,
today.
all and this is just one of the use case. I mean, there will be a lot of use cases that can be covered or you can be provided with the workflows. All details Parikshit will be sharing in L1. You will be getting ideas, right? So even if you would like to automate your career, that will certainly help via an automation. And when you say automate is predictable, right?
Yes.
And to make AI agents predictable, there is a different way of customizing it, right? And that is something what
Mhm.
we're gonna learn into the L1 as well. So yeah, over to you, Parikshit.
Yes, okay. So what we were discussing were that so you can deactivate a particular node so that they don't interfere with your different type of the different nodes that you have further down the workflow. Let's say you have 5 triggers, you don't need 5 triggers at the same time. You want to test one of the triggers, you deactivate. Now, how do you deactivate them? Let me just tell you simply. Like, let's say I want to do this to a particular node. Come on. Huh. So let's say you have this node. As we saw, these are the uh, functional element buttons. And if you look at this one, you can activate this. The first button does what? The first button activates the node, and the second button basically deactivates the node. If I click this one, now the node is activated. If you see there's color in the icon, and on this one there's no color. If I activate it again, you can see the color on this. Let's say I don't want this to participate in the workflow, I can deactivate it. I don't want to delete it, I want it to be here so that I can quickly switch into this, but I want to remove this from participating it in the application, so or the workflow, I deactivate this one. Again, same with this one, I deactivated it, and that's why all the nodes are grayed out. There's nothing different I'm doing, they're just grayed out because I've deactivated them. So I'll share this particular reference workflow with you. So it's not a workflow, basically it's just a cheat sheet where you can come and experiment with different nodes. Just go in there, see what type of input they have, output, the kind of things that they can share. Again, okay, so as we are likely here, let's just discuss quickly. So we know that this particular part is our canvas, this whole thing, this in the center, and this is our node drawer, basically what I like to call it. But again, when you click on a particular node, what you get is a UI which tells you the specifics of that particular node. Now, how does that help us? It basically helps us configure the node. What do you want to do in that particular node? What is the input? Like, what is the input that is coming into that node, what is the output that the node has generated, and the configurations of the node. And these configurations are different for every single node. You can go in there and play with any one of them, and you'll be surprised to see the sheer number of configurations that you can provide. Every single thing that you can configure with code can be configured here. And if you require some very strict and these settings, these are basically node particulars, not node specific settings but general settings about the node, whether you want that node to execute once. It doesn't have anything to do with if the node is Gmail node, Sheets node, or WhatsApp node. These are not node specific settings which you can configure from here. Okay, now there's one really interesting thing. If what if you do you add a node, let's say you add a trigger, you want to trigger it manually. Okay, and then you add a action in an app node, let's say you add a mail. Okay, I want mail to be, okay, I want Gmail right here. Oh come on, Instagram. Gmail. Now, if you look at this, these are all the actions that the particular node can perform. There is no single Gmail node. There are these many Gmail nodes which are used to perform different types of applications. And again, there is a Gmail trigger as well. So, on message received, basically, when you receive a message on this particular email, you have to do something XYZ. So, this is the part where another application is going to talk to our n8n instance using the APIs. And these all are the parts when our application, n8n application, is going to talk to the other application, which in this case is Gmail, using the APIs. So let's say I want to send a message, I click on that. These settings open for me by default because they know as soon as you've added the node you will want to configure it, and we have already configured it. So Google account authentication again. So one thing is really nice, that if you set up credentials once, next time you get them in the drop down. You don't have to go every time putting up client API keys and client secrets and client IDs and everything. Once you add them, and this is applicable for every single credentials out there. You add WhatsApp credentials, they're going to be here, and you add LLM credentials, they're going to be here. N number of credentials, you can manage credentials globally as well. So you can reuse the credentials on different types of node. So the resources message and blah blah blah, you can just configure that. The interesting thing I want to show is this is how you connect nodes. These lines, these are the third element we are looking at it. The one was active functional component, second was the sticky note, which is a non-functional element, and third are these lines which help us connect, or this is the workflow. Nodes actually do the work, but what decides the flow, these arrows decide. And every single flow or every single node is going to have these holes, which determines how many, the number of inputs that a particular node has, and the number of outputs. If we look into different nodes, uh, huh. So the if node, it has one output but it has two, one input but it has two outputs. Okay, that's why there are two circles up there. Again, the merge node, it has two inputs but one output, that's why the number of circles differ. Okay, so that is how you visually read. That's why it's visual first application, and that is what the beauty about it. You just by looking at the node, you can tell how many inputs and how many outputs does the particular thing has. Now let's say it does something and then I add a random node here. I want, let's say whatever is the emailer, I want it to go to an AI agent. This not has nothing to do with anything, I'm just putting it randomly to show you one thing, that if there is a node to the right and if there is a node to the left of a particular node, upon clicking it, upon clicking it, you're going to see those nodes right here. So this is the node which is to the left of the node, and this is the node to the right of the node. Let's say I'm performing some settings in here. Now I want to go to the next node. The usual practice was initially you close this, you go to that node, you double click, you open, and now suddenly you've lost context of what was happening there. Right? And let's say you have jumped 4 nodes and now you want to look back. It's really, really difficult. So that is why they added these buttons. You can just simply click here and you go to the previous node. You click here, you go to previous node. That's how you can navigate between nodes when you're configuring a whole workflow. So the general way of creating a workflow, just add all the nodes that you want, connect them, and go to the first node, uh, configure it, go to the next one, configure it, go to the next one, configure it. That is easy as it gets. Okay, so that is how you read a workflow. Okay, so I'll share this particular workflow with you, so guys you can look at all the different workflows, nodes available, flow control and code transformation. These are the real heavy lifters if you are into something which is not pre-made into the n8n workflow, which is going to be a very rare use case, obviously, because most of them are created for you. Then There are file operations, amazing. Like this is the best part, where you can convert a particular file into different file. So you can read or write files from your local disk. Let's say you're hosting n8n on a particular server, you can read files, you can write files, you can convert files CSV to JSON and etc. Although you'll have to provide code for this. Extract from file, let's say you want to use file as a data source. So as till now we used applications as our data source, emails, WhatsApp messages, etc. Now you want to use a file as a data source, or you can use an image as a data source, whatever. Next, network communications. Again, the like the heavy stack of communicating with different things. This one is particularly interesting. RSS feed. Now I don't know how many of you are aware of RSS, but if you really want to collect news, as we are going to see, RSS feed is your best friend. Okay, and other these are like very specific use cases. Built-in triggers, we already saw these, right? We saw all of these and we saw them in detail. Then app triggers, again the same thing. When you want some other application to trigger things in our application, these are the kinds of trigger available. Gmail, Slack, Telegram, so you can have a message or you can send an email to your particular designated thing and the workflow will trigger. WhatsApp trigger, so you could send WhatsApp to a particular given message and it will just trigger. So this is the building blocks of, what do you call, an autonomous agent of the class which OpenClaw belongs to, right? OpenClaw, you just text it on a particular messaging platform and OpenClaw does things for you. This is where it gets interesting. Okay, teams, and then app triggers. As we just saw above, there are different types of applications which can trigger your again, app triggers of different kinds. This is e-commerce, then data and cloud, all of these are app triggers. CRM and sales, project management, blah blah blah. Let's say your particular you are assigned a particular ticket and then that has to trigger something. You have to be given resources, permissions, and etc etc. You have to be sent a mail. All of that can be done from here. So let's say you have a Notion board, you have the team, you allot a particular ticket to someone, that ticket triggers this workflow. All the resources required for that ticket are shared with the particular assignee through a complete workflow. Nobody has to click any more buttons. Okay, email and messaging, just the general stack. Then email marketing, sending multiple emails to in bulk, database, spreadsheets. Like this gets really really deep if you just start. uh, okay, cloud storage, e-commerce payments. You can practically build a complete application in here. There is everything that you need. DevOps, customer support. Let's say somebody files a ticket, has an issue, a workflow runs, checks his account number, checks his permissions, checks his orders, and brings you the complete data. So no more, can I put your call on hold for 5 minutes and everything? No, you don't require that. As soon as somebody calls, everything is just gathered and given to the representative and then they take the call, right? Social media content management, like check how your YouTube feed is doing, how did the last video perform. Based on that, market research the market, create new thumbnails, create new what do you call, titles and everything, right? Out of from different CRM's website, blah blah blah. So it's really deep. You can just take your time, go through all of these agents and chains. We're going to take this in L1. Chats, models, and LLM providers, everything. Vector stores, again, if you need to perform RAG, you want the LLM to answer your specific answers based on your data. Embeddings, the very next step when you start fine tuning the model or like using vectors for RAG applications. Memory and AI tools and AI support and blah. Okay, that's it. So I'll share this JSON with you. Now coming to the JSON, how do you import workflows or share workflows with other developers? Let's say I have developed a workflow, for example. Right now I have created this workflow. Now I want to share this with you. How are you guys going to get this? So for that, now this one, I asked you guys, are you aware with APIs and are you aware with JSON? n8n works heavily with JSON. Everything is JSON in n8n. So this whole workflow is a JSON as well. What we do, I go here and I can export it, but right now I have, or rather I can publish it. I will have to publish it to export it, but nevertheless I have it exported already. Where did it go? uh, n8n. Perfect. So this is the 5 node and this is the uh, all node reference. I'll copy these and I'll send them to you whenever Mohit, is it fine if I send it on the WhatsApp group later?
Yeah, I think that would be better.
Okay, I'll send it on the WhatsApp group later. How do you import it? So let me just show you. Let's say you are on this blank canvas. Nothing is present, right? Nothing. You go up here on this three dots. You say import from a file. Okay. When you say import from a file, it shows you this menu, and then you can just go to that particular downloaded JSON file. Let's say I want to have the 5 time. Okay. And I open it. As soon as you open it, it'll take some time, and then there you go. Okay, you have all of it ready here. Perfect. Okay, so any issues till now? For now, everything related to the UI and handling n8n and everything hands-on has been explained. Now we are going to get into two dedicated workflows. I'll explain my logic behind it, how I created it, and we are going to work through that. So before we move into that, is there anybody who has not understood anything, wants to ask about it, something like that? Anyone? Any doubts? Plus, Mohit, I think there's going to be an issue. I don't have light and my machine is at 51%. So let's
Oh,
see how long that lasts. Because this is a 3080 machine, so it sips battery like anything.
yes, yes.
Although I can kill the GPU, but that will require restart. But never mind. Let's see. Let's see if we can do it.
You're a host, so uh, right,
Okay.
you're a host, so don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If this comes down to 20%, I'll make you the host. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Best power efficiency. We're already in that
we
mode.
can
Okay.
get all from audience if we can split
Huh?
this. We can split the session.
Okay, if that is possible, yeah. So let me just show you the workflows and then we can discuss about them maybe
Yeah.
tomorrow. Overview and yeah, just let me. AI News Digest. This is my favorite one. So one of the things that Mohit talked about was that it's really difficult to what do you call, keep up with all this AI news around the town, right? Every new day there are five different things happening, and you really don't have time to go through 10 different websites and 10 different social media platforms and get them uh, like go through them and remember all of that. It's really difficult. So this is what I've done. I've taken a morning trigger every morning at 8 p.m. and then I've taken three RSS feeds. Now this tells you that a single trigger can trigger number of nodes regardless of number of holes on the side of it. Okay, that's a really interesting finding, but that's only applicable to trigger node. No other node can do that. Okay, every other node will depend heavily on how many holes they have. Just the trigger node can do this, or there are some exceptions in the control and manipulation types, but anyway. So RSS is what it basically brings you the news feed, and I have configured it for different websites. So this is the what do you call, the website link. Okay, TechCrunch is one of the websites that brings me news. Second is the Verge AI, and the third is Hacker News. Okay, when I trigger this on Monday morning, I can manually trigger it from here as well. What this will do is trigger all these three nodes. They will go to the RSS feed, bring them. Now since they are bringing from three services and each of them is bringing 10 items, again from the UI perspective, this is the okay, let me actually, it gets difficult. I have to get
Trigger,
into the specifics of it. Okay,
not be
let's
trigger.
just
Maybe just for now, just trigger one.
we can trigger it. We
Yeah,
can
yeah.
trigger it.
You can
So
show
as
this
soon
one.
as you trigger it, this happens. The green thing tells you that okay, the node ran perfectly. Now, when a node produces in, like this was the input. What was the input? Every morning at 8 a.m. This is the input. So that's a trigger, and this is the output. Trump officially may encourage banks to test Anthropic Mythos models. The report of particular supplies since Department of Defense recently declared Anthropic a supply chain. Blah blah blah. All of this is news, right? And there are 20 items that came through that news. Now, when testing workflows, you don't, so let's say I am on this part of the workflow, this part, and I made a simple change in this one, but to test it I again have to go through all of that, and every single node takes 5 to 10 seconds to execute. That is going to take a lot of time from my particular workflow, right? I want to test this quickly. So for that, what they have done is, when a particular node generates an output, what you can do is you can pin the output. Okay, amazing, huh? So you can pin the output. What this does is it pins this data here, and whenever you are going to execute the next node, it will just take that already generated data. This node will not be run again. So you have pinned the data. This is for testing purposes. Now let me unpin this. What I have done was I had pinned this. This will always stay like this. Let's say Trump officials may encourage bank testing. Okay. Now I'll run this again. If I'm running this again, this should have ran again and should have changed the data. But did the data change? No. Now I'll unpin the data. There is no output. Now I'll run the again. Okay. I've ran this RSS feed. Okay, I'll have to manually run this again because this is not executing the whole workflow. When you, okay, this is again a different thing. When you press this button, execute workflow, everything executes from start to end without you interfering anything. But when you press this button, only this node will run. So right now I have pressed this button, only this node ran. So to execute this node now, and this is for testing purposes, to test individual nodes. Now I'll have to click this. I click this red circling tells you that the node is running, and the green thing tells me okay, it has run successfully. Now if I check, okay, now the data has changed. Right now I want this data to persist so that I can use the same data on next particular node and test it for different settings on this same data. My testing will go down the drain if I'm testing this node with different settings on different types of inputs. That is not going to produce any plausible results. So that's why what I do is, or what general practice is, you come here, you have this button, you pin the data. Okay, you pin the data, and this is now going to stay like this unless I unpin. No matter how many times I run this node, will not change anything. Okay, so these three goes to the website, bring me the data. This merge nodes does what? There are 10 10 10 10 10 20, there are 30 items. It is going to merge all of them, then bring this to duplicate. So obviously maybe there is a news which was there published by Verge AI and the TechCrunch and Hacker News. All of them published the same news, but just with some different settings. I don't want to see different things, duplicate things. So that's why I put a node, and this node is custom node. So there is this custom code node, which basically, because there is no node present in n8n for removing duplicates. I can use an AI node, but it is going to cost me tokens. So this is the way to do it without tokens. Okay, so this is custom node. I put a simple JavaScript code in here. It runs once and it does the filtering for me. Okay, out of 30 things it filters and brings me the top 8. I don't want to go through 15 16 things in the morning. I just want top 8 things, and then those top 8 things are given to the AI. It writes a digest, it formats the output, then it logs it to the Google Sheet so that I have access to it if I need to access it later, see what was done, what was not, and it sends me a email. Okay, or it can also send me a Telegram message, or it can send me a WhatsApp message. That's how this whole thing works. We will take this in detail tomorrow because my battery seems to be on 37% already. And then
So,
let me just show you quickly another workflow. I'll just show you. We will not, I'm not going
yeah,
to go into the depths of it. AI
yeah.
job hunter, and this runs end to end. This is like, I am really excited about this one because it runs end to end. If you look at it, there's the application instance. So when you execute this, it gives you a form. You upload your already present resume and what job you're looking for. It goes through that, extracts the data, prepares the resume, creates the AI generated summary, builds the search query. And these are the two APIs, Himalayas and Remotive. These are the two, these are my choices. You can place anything. This could be LinkedIn, this could be what do you call it, Google search simple using the tag APIs, or it could be the naukri.com. It could be any simple thing because this is a general HTTP node. And how do we look at it? As we saw, you go here and you search HTTP request node, right? You can configure it, then merges, this could be n number of APIs, and merge all of them, merge and normalize them so that the AI is okay with working. Otherwise there are going to be branding tags, hashtag remote, hashtag that. I don't want all of that in the AI summary that I'm generating. They parse based on score. So I only want the jobs that matches my title and resume for 8 or plus points, right? Or rather 7 or plus in this cases. And then this particular custom node does that, has matched, has true or false. If it is true, this commits a whole loop of it, right? And this loop does what? It creates a resume and a cover letter for me, converts them to PDF, uploads them to my Google Drive, merges the PDF links, sends it to a Google Sheet, and gives me an email. Just to show you that it successfully ran, this is the n8n sheet. These are the number of invocations that I have done. Okay, these are the links to all those contents and everything, right? They ran successfully, everything happened, and I generated the emails. I think I deleted them. Uploaded resume. Yes, I deleted them. So these are the two folders. Okay, let me just see if I have them in trash. I cannot open them due to some security reason, but these are the ones I generated. Okay, these are the ones that are cover letter, and resume. These were the two generated. I deleted them today at 9 p.m., but regardless. So this thing runs, and we can go into every single detail of it if you want tomorrow. And then this, it does it for all the values. So how many of them were generated? Let's say 7 items, right? So the 7 items. Okay, come on. Huh. These 7 items that were generated by the score, this whole loop is going to run for them on 7 times, and it is going to send me 7 different emails. There can be an email. Yes, there must have been an email, and it auto applies on my terms. Okay, it just doesn't send me the email; it also applies on my behalf. Sent one. Yeah, this is how I get. Okay, new job match found. Java developer, Solotive India, Java Spring Boot. These are the requirements, and these are my AI tailored things. I can download them, or I can simply click apply now. When I click apply now, it is going to go and apply to that particular website for me based on these two things. Okay, now okay, amazing. It has also provided me with a this is what it has generated. Now you can go to your heart's extent and basically customize it, how the you can provide it with a template. It can give you a HTML that you can edit into and whatnot. Like the sky is the limit. Okay, so that is all for today. I hope you
One
guys.
request, Parikshit.
Huh.
Maybe in L1,
Hmm?
let's extend this to so when your CVs get matched with the company,
Hmm?
there would be one more node which would
Hmm.
scrape about us page of the company. There is any class.
Yes, yes, yes. I
Recent class.
had
So
that,
you
but
will
the
get
issue
full
was that it
insight.
required search APIs.
Yeah.
Huh. And the search APIs were paid. That is the reason I skipped them. Otherwise, I would have loved to have that. Also, one thing, just save battery. Okay, we went through all of this, but then recently there has been an explosion in n8n community where it is called an n8n ecosystem. So now there is, initially there was just, this was a visual first thing, right? So you could only create workflows visually, but then power users got a hold of it and they were like, okay, this is fine, but going through things visually is amazing for learning, but in production use cases you really want people who are well versed with codes and can write it out 10 times faster, because writing 10 lines is going to be way easier than configuring 10 nodes in UI. You understanding 100 on 100 for UI, but for configuring a production use case, that is when n8n officially came up with n8n slash workflow SDK. So now creating a workflow can also be done like this. So const workflow, you create a workflow with name, add trigger, then add build, and you can add nodes however you want, right? And this is exactly the same thing. This is going to generate a, you can export it as a JSON and
Are you
look at
sharing
it.
something?
Oh shit, sorry, I'm extremely sorry.
Yeah.
uh, okay, okay, sorry. So as I was saying, there has been an explosion in the internet ecosystem, and they are heavily focusing on power users as well now. So they have released this n8n workflow SDK by n8n themselves. So now creating an n8n workflow can also look like this, and this produces an n8n compatible JSON, and you can import it, and you can use the UI, or you can use this code however you want, and it can play between two. And now, because this is an amazing thing done by the community, they presented n8n as code. So you can, they basically created an npm package out of n8n, and you can just write single code npx n8n ac in it, and it initiates your project, and you can completely control this web UI using command line. Okay, and now as a result of that, just imagine if you have working code, and you can control n8n with code, and you can control it with CLI. What is the very next thing that we, and obviously we have APIs, these APIs, we talked about this. What is the very next thing people think about? The very next thing is generating it with AI. So there is a n8n cloud code. There is an n8n cloud code extension. There is an integration, right? Cloud integration. No, there is a there is an MCP for it, and there is also a skill. Okay, you install the skill, you ask Claude to code to generate some XYZ workflow. You, it's not going to do 100% okay job of it, but it can at least get you started. So you don't have to configure all those nodes yourself since the starting. You can later go in and change everything, but like this, just because of these three things. What? The first, being able to create n8n workflows using code. Second, using it, control it using CLI tools. And third, accessibility of APIs. What gives access, that is what enables cloud to the n8n workflows. I think I am going to be out of battery soon, but yeah, that's all from my side for today. If people insist, and if you guys really want me to go into the depths of it or cover anything else, we can have a session tomorrow. A poll for that will be dropped on the group. Please respond to it, and then we can discuss about it later. I hope I am still audible. I don't know.
Yes, I think we can have end-to-end that
What?
job hunter building we can do tomorrow. The